Welcome to historic Cedar Grove, located in the Garden District of beautiful Vicksburg, Mississippi. Cedar Grove got its name because when it was built, the property ran all the way to the Mississippi River and was bordered by 26 giant cedar trees.
My name is Amy Humphreys, and I am the tour guide for Cedar Grove in Vicksburg, Mississippi. The house was built by John Klein. He was originally from Virginia. He came to Vicksburg and worked as a jeweler and a watchmaker. He got into banking when he arrived here. He got into railroad. He also had a sawmill, so he amassed a fortune quite quickly. And he built this house. The first 4 columns he built in 1840 and straight up. He owned all the property down to the river, and then he even had a landing called Klein's Landing down at the river. This part of the house was ready in 1842 for him to marry his fiancée. Her name was Elizabeth Day. She was originally from Ohio. They met when she was 14 and married when she was 16. He built the house for her. They married in the house, and then he took her to Europe for 2 years for her honeymoon. Cedar Grove was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1972. It includes the property, the Native American mound to the right, the gazebo, and the fountains as well. The Native American mound is full of cisterns that John Klein built inside them to add the water to the fountains and the house. During the siege of Vicksburg, people also dug holes in the Native American mound to protect themselves for cover. This part of the house was built in 1852. John Klein did a lot of work out of the house. He did a lot of business, and he had his customers come through there through a separate entrance. He hung his shingle out. This part of the house was built in 1858. It was used as a sitting room until the Kleins started having children, and then it was a nursery. The Kleins had 10 children. Sadly, only 6 lived to adulthood. Okay, now let's go inside and do the foyer and talk about the Grant bedroom. So all the rooms in Cedar Grove are named after the children of John and Elizabeth Klein, except for 2. This is the Grant Suite, and it's named after General Ulysses Grant because he actually slept in that room. During the siege of Vicksburg, the Northern Army made this house a field camp, and General Grant spent a lot of time here. And he would go up the hill to the northern headquarters, but he actually was a drinker and he drank quite a bit, and then he would sleep off his drunks here. So we know that General Grant slept in this room. This was also the main bedroom for John and Elizabeth Klein during their time here. And off to the side was the nursery when they began to have children. If you'll notice at the top, the red Bohemian glass was bought in Europe by John and Elizabeth. It's meant to filter the light so the house doesn't get so hot. These 2 doors also can be opened and make a cross breeze, which was the purpose of the big hallway in between. During the siege of Vicksburg, the house was wide open for, trouble that was coming up the river, and it took on a little bit of damage. We're pretty sure the house survived and wasn't burnt because of Elizabeth's uncle, William Tecumseh Sherman. He got in touch with Elizabeth before the war came to Vicksburg, and he told her she needed to leave. He knew that there was trouble coming up the river. She didn't know what it was, but he did. She was 4 months pregnant at the time, and she left the house. At that time, the Union Army took over the house and they made it a field hospital. There's still some remnants of the damage that was done by shelling from the river. There's a cannonball hole in this door right here. And then we'll go into the gentleman's parlor where there's 2 more cannonballs to look at. And this is the gentleman's parlor. As I said, there was some cannonball fire that came through the house during the siege of Vicksburg. One cannonball was able to be saved in the wall right there, and there's another one in the floor. They say Elizabeth kept the damage that was done to her house because she got a lot of, people were really hard on her for leaving her house. So she said, let's leave that there so they can see that my house actually was damaged. The gentleman's parlor is a mirror for the ladies' parlor, which is in the next room. The gentlemen would come in here and they'd close those pocket doors and they would smoke and they would drink. They would also use the library, which was also John Klein's office. We'll take a look in the library. So this is the library. This was also where John Klein did a lot of his business. A lot of the books are original to the house, especially the books on the top. You'll notice a spiral staircase that goes down into the basement. When John and Elizabeth Klein had the house, it was a wine cellar. When the Northern Army had a field hospital here, it was a morgue, and that's where they would put their bodies. The books that are in the table right here are Elizabeth's diaries, and those diaries are the accounts of the conversation she had with her uncle, William Tecumseh Sherman, about his warning and about her leaving the house. She was 4 months pregnant. She went on to have a little boy. She named him Willie T. Sherman Klein, after her benefactor who had saved her. And now we're going to go into the portico. So this is the portico. This was all open to give a nice breeze. The main reason for the porch, where it was because the carriages could come up and let the ladies step off. They would be wearing the really big, heavy dresses with the hoop skirts, and they had trouble managing the stairs, so they would bring them to the porch and let them just step off. The greenhouse and the fish reservoir are also on the National Registry of Historic Places. The fish reservoir was just a place where they would bring fresh fish from the river and put it there until it was ready for the table. And this is the ballroom. This is where the ladies and gentlemen would come to dance. If you'll notice over my shoulder, there's a framed picture of a ladies' dance card. The gentlemen would come and they would sign the dance card, and she had to dance with him. The second frame picture that we have on the wall is Susan Klein's wedding invitation. Susan was the eldest of the Klein children. Her house still stands next door, the Corners. Her father built that house for her. There's a cemetery, if you'll notice, in the corner of the yard. The Klein children were buried there, the ones that didn't survive. Sadly, Willie T. Sherman Klein, the little boy that she was pregnant with during the siege, was killed in a hunting accident when he was 15. He was also buried there. We have like a memorial to the children out there now. Their bodies were moved when the house went out of the family's name. Welcome to the Red Room. The Red Room was originally the formal dining room for the Kleins. Over my shoulder, there's a picture of John Klein in his later years. The lady next to him in the picture is his daughter, Clara. Clara and her brother, George, were kicked out of the will. We're not exactly sure of the reason, but the parents thought they just had enough, so they put them out of the will. We have 2 rooms in the attic of the house, and we call them the Clara and George room because of they're getting kicked out of the will. When they were ready to expand the dining room, they knocked down this wall, a load-bearing wall, and built the arch. And they made this room into a sitting room, and their formal dining room became this room. This is the Klein's formal dining room. So if you'll notice the curtain tiebacks right here, they are replicas of Queen Victoria's hands. She had very, very small hands. The new owners, when they took ownership of the house, noticed that this piece of furniture was a little different. They opened this and realized that it was a safe. And there's a dial that you can turn. They also got the safe open in the summer of '23. And this is what was inside the safe. They've left it as it is. Nobody's touched anything. They had no idea when they opened the safe what would be in the safe. All the houses in Cedar Grove are named after the children, the Klein children, except for 2, the Grant Suite and the Uncle Henry room. Uncle Henry was a beloved servant of the Klein family. When the Northern Army took over the house, they took Uncle Henry with them to fight. He was given gold to fight, and he would often fill up his pockets with gold. But it became a hindrance to him during battles, and he would have to dump his gold. And sadly, Uncle Henry would tell the story that he survived the war with his life, but no gold. If you'll notice the pool house behind me, it was original to the house. John and Elizabeth lived in the pool house when they were remodeling their main house. It also became the kitchen eventually. They often built the kitchen outside of the main houses because of the heat that they would produce, but also because of fire hazard. Cedar Grove is also now a bed and breakfast. We would love to have you come to visit us in Vicksburg's Historic Garden District.